live. Mm, live, man, we're live. When we when we see how carry come, by the way, welcome to the TV, where we bisect the happenings of the Jamaican landscape and worldwide. People, CARICOM have become a changing ground for us in the Caribbean. Gone are the days when we used to have people like, people like Michael Manley, who speak for the Caribbean, who speak for worldwide democracy and worldwide peace. Gone are the days when we also have voices of people like Fidel Castro of Cuba, where these two gentlemen were like giants in the Caribbean. Yeah, man. We have seen the emergence of today leaders who are not have the capacity to stand up to world power, world power from the United States, from Canada, from Europe and other parts of the world. But thanks be unto God, we have people like Ralph Gonsalves and people like Mia Matley standing like a man. Mia Matley of Barbados, a woman, standing like a man in the Caribbean. I I am amazed by the bravery of women like Mia Matley. Yes, because Mia Matley doesn't care who is the leader of the first world. And so when them talk about the first world, them a talk about the the president of America. I'm not telling a lie. When we hear Mia Matley speak at the UN and Ralph Gonsalves of Saint Vincent and the Grenadine, I saw the spirit of Michael Manley in those two persons, especially. While people of Michael Manley country beat around the bush, Prime Minister Anju U.N beat around the bush and pressing matter. No why them say Jamaica is in US backyard. Yes, but people I am going to allow you to listen to Mia Matley addressing the UN conference recently. And I am a man of the Caribbean. And I am so proud to say that Mia Matley is standing like a man with two balls. Yes, a man with two balls. Figuratively, she's standing like a man with two balls, while our Prime Minister creep on his knee and his belly in the UN like a snake, begging and pleading to America. But listen to me, Amatley. Sometimes I wonder if God is a woman when I hear Mia Matley speak. Listen.
Progress stalls. Those who attempt to escape are killed, and those who remain inside are starved. The world must not ignore the horror in Sudan. And of course, I don't need to remind you that it must not ignore the horror in Gaza.
This is Mia Matley speaking on worldwide issue. People starving in Africa, and Mia Matley, a woman of the Caribbean, find it necessary to, to speak about this at the UN convention. Yes, this woman, this woman is really a godsend. Listen.
Genocidal destruction taking place in both places must now have our full attention. And as it relates to Gaza, yes, there must be a release of the hostages taken on October 7th. But we have now gone to a point where all of our human sensibilities are offended by the continuous and disproportionate attacks on the Palestinian people and the failure to allow access by the international community to the survivors for the provision of humanitarian aid. The survivors are entitled, my friends, to use the words of Bob Marley. How can you be sitting there telling me that you care when every time I look around, the people suffer in the suffering? And
people, me are telling you, when I hear Mia Matley speak on worldwide issue, not just the Caribbean, my eyes are filled with tears. Oh, this woman stand in the Caribbean tall like a Michael Manley, like a Fidel Castro. And me are telling you, people of Jamaica, people of Jamaica, I am telling you, Mia Matley, Mia Matley should be celebrated in every corner of the Caribbean. This woman is so great and at the same time so gracious.
every way, in everywhere. My friends, it calls to mind the Roman historian Tacitus, who quoted a Scottish chieftain fighting against the military might of the Roman Empire. And I mention only the last two sentences. They plunder, they butcher, they ravish, they make it desert and call it peace. They make it desert and they call it peace. The real tragedy of war is that these children, when they become grandparents, will still be answering the innocent questions posed by their grandchildren 70, 80 years from now as to how they lost their limbs. Granny, how did you lose your leg? And when they answer, we run the risk that the violence and hate will be perpetuated for another 2 to 3 generations. This is not why we have come together. This is not good. And Madam President, it is happening under our watch. We can and we must do better to secure the peace across the world in the name of the children. And let me say that at the very least, the international community must immediately find the funding to support the children of Gaza and the children of Sudan for the next 3 months. UNICEF has said that in Gaza it is $66 million that is needed for the next 3 months. And in Sudan it is $200 million. The money is mostly nutrition related to reverse or to mitigate famine for children and to provide water and sanitation and health interventions. And we should note that there have been multiple disease outbreaks, including cholera. So, Madam President, to be very clear as I move on, a lasting peace can never be achieved through violence, not continued bombing. It can only be achieved through justice as our guide and dialogue, talking. And lest we forget, where others are seeking to build the peace and to preserve humanity in Gaza, as we saw, the international community must not condone the bombing of those states who look to facilitate peace. It is a red line that we must never cross. Madam President, I say simply again, another year, the world needs a reset. We must find first and foremost whether we still agree on the same values that inform our charter. As simple as this seems, this is necessary.
If you don't listen to what me I say, if you don't listen to what me and Matley I say, she's telling the leaders of the first world, and when we speak about the first world, we're speaking about countries who call themselves G7 countries. These are countries that are like wolf pack. Yes, the G7 countries are like wolf pack. They are like a gang of, animal who strikes against so-called enemy at the same time, and them not care nothing at all about people, children, lives. These people will just send drone and bomb everywhere that them feel like enemy is out there, and them not think about children, all people, especially children losing their limbs at a tender age. And this is what Mia Matley is addressing at the UN. When these young lives become older, their, their children and their grandchildren would be asking them, Grandma, Mommy, how comes you're having just one limb? And what can they tell that youngster that they were sitting in their room and here are bombing and the place just bomb up, drone strike, and them have to give thanks is only a limb them lose. These are the things that Mia Matley is addressing at the UN while our Prime Minister, Anju U.N, was at the UN, was at the UN speaking of how he had attained a low crime rate in Jamaica. That is what our Prime Minister bring to the UN. How Jamaica has attained a low crime rate. And if the story go further, he would the UN that systematic operation in volatile community. And him now go tell them say many lives in Jamaica was wasted. Whole heap of young people life was wasted in achieving what he's bragging about at the UN convention. Oh, Jamaica have attained a low crime rate of 40%. That is what our Prime Minister got to the UN with. While Mia Matley go to the UN like a giant, like a giant. Yes, Mia Matley go to the UN like a giant. And also Ralph Gonsalves, Prime Minister of St. Vincent, telling people of the G7 that they must be careful of how they treat smaller nations. But listen, listen to me, Amatle. Listen, because I would listen to this woman till the end of time.
Necessary in any reset, for values we all know have changed over the last 80 years, and we cannot assume that it is business as usual. And if it is available to all of us to agree to those values, then we must at least know who does and who doesn't. In addition to our inability to bring about peace in multiple conflicts, there really still are a number of issues that threaten our way of life and the stability of our planet beyond war. The climate crisis, food insecurity, water scarcity, mass flow of refugees and displaced persons, poverty and increasing inequality within and between societies. It has become so insidious that people don't even talk about it sufficiently. And of course, the failing spectacle of the SDGs for too many of our countries and people across the world. And of course, unregulated AI, which, while it has tremendous promise, poses unregulated significant risk. Many of our people ask every day, why has the United Nations not done better recently? The simple truth, my friends, is that countries, countries have lacked the political will to live by the charter and to do what is right for humanity. Countries of different sizes, capacities, and cultures.
That is what I was saying earlier. Countries who call themselves the G7, and I'm speaking to the people of the so-called France, people of the USA, people of the Canada, leaders, leaders of all the G7s. Stop what you are doing. And I must also tell our leader of our nation, Anju U.N, we have no equity, no equity in Haiti. Haiti supposed to be our brother. Haiti supposed to be our brother. Why are we sending our army, our policemen to Haiti? For what? For what reason? For personal gain? Do you remember the history of the Haitian rebellion or the Haitian also helped Jamaica in the fight against slavery, Toussaint Louverture, Three Finger Jack, the blood of those Haitians who helped to fight in the liberation of the Jamaican people against slavery. So why that no we? Why that no we? And I use the word we, Jamaica, because the government of Jamaica is we. Why are we sending people in Haiti? Why are we sending people in Haiti to do what? Let the Haitian do their business, because sooner or later Jamaica would be like Haiti. Sooner or later Jamaica would be like Haiti. We are sitting on the doorstep of Haiti. So I don't know where our government a follow fashion and a send troop down a Haiti to do what? To do what? Listen to me.
Can only survive in this world in which we live if we maintain a rules-based system. It is no different to what we have to do in our own countries to maintain and protect the vulnerable and the weak. In fact, it's no different than what has to be done in a child's playground. The rules-based system is what protects us from bullying and from rogue behavior. Our charter was designed to promote compassion, equality, fairness. And this is why it is imperative that we maintain a rules-based system. I speak as a leader of a small country. Our future is placed at risk unless we preserve this rules-based system. The law of the jungle does not guarantee any of us a future on a livable, or indeed doesn't guarantee us a livable planet. We have simply to step up to the plate. And unlike the West Indian Federation, when one country left and the maths of the day was 1 from 10 leaves 0, we must remember that if there are those who don't want to be inside at the dance, that 1 or 2 or 3 from 193 does not leave 0. Does not leave 0. Those of us who remain can continue to pursue our vital interests. And we don't criticize countries for making sovereign decisions, because that's what governments were elected to do. If that's not what they want, that's not what they want. But let us get on with the business and protect our vital interests of preserving a rules-based system to strengthen us, to build peace, to allow us to better face challenges from climate to pandemics to unregulated AI, and generally to build a better life for our people. There is no doubt that there is a case for efficiency gains to be made in this United Nations institutional framework. We know that. But once we finish the efficiency gains, member states who want or need a rules-based order must put their money where their mouth is. If we are to be protected by a rules-based system, then we must step up to the plate and provide the funds to bridge the gap, to deliver the results that we desire. We must move from short pants to long pants and understand that we can.
That is what we are talking about. Leaders, leaders must grow up now. Come off on the knee. And I'm speaking to the government of Jamaica. Come off on the knee now. Step up to the plate. Put on the money where no more. They on a beg too much. On a beg too much. That's why I creep and slither like snake on the ground. Everything on I beg. When I just a beg. So turn Jamaica in a harlot country. That's when you go to the UN, you cannot give a manly speak. Manly speak, no pun intended. When our Prime Minister go to the UN couple weeks ago, he could not give a manly speech. He could not deliver a manly speech. When I listen to Ralph Gonzalez deliver a manly speech. When I listen to Mia Matley is now putting down a manly speech. Other leaders of the Caribbean who stand up like man, they put on a manly speech. So why did not our government put on a manly speech? Instead, you go to the UN and a brag and a boast, or you achieve a low crime rate, or you achieve the low crime rate with people of the inner city and the countryside crying out to the security force, crying out. Let's listen to Mia Matley.
No longer complain about the absence or behavior of a country and not ourselves be prepared to make wrong things right. It is as simple as that. And believe me, the arithmetic is not bad. It is within each of our reach to reach there, to do it. And let us remember the Aristotelian principle: equality among equals, proportionality among unequals. My friends, and while we contemplate the multiple crises, let us also not despair, because there are some things that have worked for the benefit of our people in the last few years. We now have globally a historic pandemic agreement that was adopted to make the world equitable, more equitable, and safer from future pandemics. A full appreciation of this will only come when the next pandemic hits us. We have agreed to the Seville Commitment on Finance, which seeks to fulfill the promise of the SDGs, and which, even though the funding has not been fully identified, has mainstreamed a number of financing concepts that were simply not taken into account a decade ago. Debt swaps, natural disaster clauses, or what they call climate resilient debt clauses. These are the things that we advocated in the Bridgetown Initiative. We have committed also as a world last year here to an ambitious global action plan to combat antimicrobial resistance. And what does that have to do with any of us in here? I've said repeatedly, this is the silent slow motion pandemic of the 21st century and threatens to reverse a century of medical progress. And when we know people who die from hospital-aided infections, we understand the importance of the vital steps taken here. Earlier this week, we successfully brought into force the Beyond Boundaries and National Jurisdiction Treaty. As a large ocean state, as Barbados is, I am acutely aware of the critical importance to protect our oceans and its marine biodiversity as part of the ecological balance of the planet. And last year, we adopted the ambitious Pact for the Future, which provides a roadmap, a North Star, for our work to protect people and planet of the future. The two instruments mentioned on Tuesday morning by our Secretary General for regulating AI must now be our priority if we are to avoid the severe deepening inequality of our times and to avoid leaving our people exposed to the risk of exploitation of AI and the distortion of facts. I must tell you that regrettably, I have experienced on a well-known commercial AI platform examples of censorship that seek to deny access to the details of our
people. When I listen to Mia, when I listen to Mia, is like it's a new dimension in leadership, a new dimension in leadership and quality leadership too. Mia is like when I was a young man and I'm listening to people like um, Fidel Castro, Michael Manley, um, Grantley Adams, um, people like Maurice Bishop. Yes, when them people that talk, I am listening to CARICOM speak. When the US, when the same US, the United States of America, have a, have an assemble anytime Jamaica speak, anytime Jamaica CARICOM come together. After that, the US have to convey a meeting. Any anytime CARICOM leader speak, because them time there, CARICOM was like a force to reckon with. Now, all CARICOM is now is about Mia Matley, Ralph Gonzalez. Only them two person there, CARICOM can say yes, speak for us on a world platform. Leaders of CARICOM nation have become self righteous. Them only get elected to please themselves and them party. Yes, nowadays leaders of CARICOM only defend party line. That's all going now in a CARICOM. Leaders only defend party line. Only defend party line in government now. Only in government. When I hear our leader in Jamaica speak, the only thing I hear is about the the Jamaica Labour Party. That's all. That's all. Now, I was saying that me and Manley was like was like a natural Manley hype. I want you to listen now to Ralph Gonzalez. Listen to Ralph Gonzalez.
Crunch.
Listen to Ralph Gonzalez.
The condition of today's world is more complicated, more dangerous than ever.
This is Ralph Gonzalez of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Listen to Ralph Gonzalez.
More uneven in its human development, more integrated, yet more disparate and desperate. At the same time, much progress and advancements have been made by humanity, and there's an enduring hopefulness amidst despair, a persistent sense that a better tomorrow is possible, even as catastrophes loom and dangers lurk. Your Excellencies, big power rivalries interlaced with personal vainglories and hubris.
That is what me just a talk about. That is what me just a talk about. Personal gain. That is what our leaders know, especially in Jamaica, is all about. When it comes on to government in Jamaica now, everybody is about personal gain. I mean, not talk about one set, me I talk the whole system of governance is about personal gain. Them no business about country again. Them no business about country again. It's only when we listen to people like Ralph Gonzalez and Mia Matley, we hear people talk about people. Everything now is about personal gain. That's all it is about now. Personal gain. Listen to Ralph Gonzalez.
Are gravely unsettling the world to the advantage of not one single nation state. Civilized discourse, tempered with patience and calm, has given way to a bellicosity of language shouted across continents and oceans, designed presumably to satisfy nativist longings in the breasts of those who think that, despite their good fortune, relatively, they have been grievously wronged by some dark and hidden forces. Can none of these persons pause and reflect upon the question posed and answered? by all the world's great religions, but in particular through the words of the Hebrew prophet Micah. What does the Lord require of us? To do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. The intractable problems facing humanity cannot be solved by any one nation unilaterally. Immature multilateralism is required to address satisfactorily rampaging climate change in the age of the Anthropocene, to resolve the threats posed by nuclear weapons and their further spread, to pursue peaceful coexistence rather than conflict, terrorism, and war, to reform the system of financing for development, inclusive of a just climate financing, to tackle successfully the growing challenges of artificial intelligence, to achieve the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by 2030, be guided by the Global Digital Compact and the Pact for the Future, and to reshape global governance more inclusively. It is thus of the highest importance for this august body, the United Nations, and the overwhelming.
When you see how when the man attack to the UN, listen to how the man attack. When the man is addressing the UN, the man not come with no personal thing for like how our Prime Minister Anju U.N go to the UN General Assembly and him attack how him bring down crime in the country. What UN have to do with the amount of life, the amount of youth life that is decimated in a country where people of all nations, the US and Canada and America, all about England, all about people in Europe, send aid for tackle these things in marginal community, whereby it is there for youths to get help from these aids. Where does the aid go? Where does the aid go? When our government get the aid for tackle youth unemployment, unattached youth in the inner city, where does the money go? Where does the money go? Sometimes the money just go in a civil society and that is the end of it. Them just come on TV when a youth get eliminated by state authority. Them just come and them babble them out and that's the end of the story. But our Prime Minister got the UN bragging about how the Jamaican government is able to bring down crime. What is that for? For the US to lift the travel ban? That is what? That is what you are looking for, Mr. Prime Minister? When you go to the UN, you ask country for, when you speak them way there about lowering crime in Jamaica, the achievement of lowering crime, where you want country to lift them travel ban, for to get more tourists. Don't tell me that, sir. Listen how people like Ralph Gonzalez tackle world issue. World issue. We need a leader of Jamaica. We can tackle world issue. When him go a function, him can speak and world issue. That means him don't know what to do in his country. So him can't tackle world issue. You cannot tackle world issue if you are not doing well in your country. So Ralph Gonzalez and Mia Matley can tackle world issue because they are doing well in their respective country. But our leader, Anju U.N, just go to the UN and speak about his achievement in Jamaica. What other achievement you have, sir? Sending troops to Haiti? That's all? That's all, sir? Sending troops to Haiti? No, come on, sir. We need better than that. Listen to Ralph Gonzalez.
Majority of nation states within it, to continue our efforts to persuade the powerful to act equitably, honorably, and multilaterally, to tackle efficaciously the extant and looming challenges facing the global community. Oftentimes, it is frustrating and disheartening to those of us who are committed to this necessary and desirable path of mature multilateralism, because our Herculean efforts seemingly deliver correspondingly negligible results. Nevertheless, we cannot give up. We cannot afford to get weary. We have no choice but to persist in this ever more urgent multilateral solidarity and cooperation as we pursue the political and economic spaces to make this world a better place for all humanity.
Did you know that the most dangerous prayer you can ever pray is only 3 words? If you skip this healing prayer, God will skip you too. The universe says,
Yeah, man. We have to know how we deal with those issues. Have to know how we deal with those issues. Yeah, yeah, man.
Your Excellencies, St. Grenadines, like all countries, have been shaped by our history and geography, our nature and neighbors, our extant circumstances, and our dreams for a better future. For example, we carry the benefits and the burdens of our geographic location, near to the greatest economic, military, scientific, and culturally dominant power the world has ever seen. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is where it is. It cannot be lifted up and taken to Vladivostok or the mouth of the Amur River. Yet, as a free and independent people, we have the right to pursue peacefully and securely our quest for shared prosperity without domination, interference, or intervention from any of our neighbors or from any power that comes from afar. To speak, my government and my people have another challenge.
That is where our leader in a Jamaica right here now. That is what our leader in Jamaica, our prime minister, have to know that for you to manage a country the right way, you have to make sure, say, you can't anger your fear. Don't make no other nation come tell you what to do. Like how we know, say, the US are come dictate to you, to you. Who for send home the Cuban them, for send home that that is dictation. You can't make people dictate to you from outer other country. And that them couldn't do with Michael Manley. Them couldn't dictate to Michael Manley. Couldn't dictate to Michael Manley and tell him say send back home the Cuban them. I send back home for send back home. I deal with you and I deal with you. Them couldn't dictate to PJ Patterson. I dictate to Portia Simpson. Not even Edward Seaga them could dictate when Edward Seaga was in governance. So that is first lesson. You have to know, say, when you go to the UN, these are the things you must have. You can't stand up broad and broad your shoulder and chat to people, make them hear you. Say, no outer power must come dictate to we in our country who to deal with or who we not to deal with. Tell it to him, Ralph Gonzalez.
From the nefarious activities of the agents of a rising or risen hegemon from another hemisphere, and from some greedy, unprincipled, non-state operators in Europe, acting in concert, seeking to pollute and interfere in our democracy, our free and fair elections, which are scheduled to be held.
Look what I go on now. Ralph Gonzalez tell them squarely say, nobody from no country can come in a St. Vincent, whether I no come from Israel, I no come from America, I no come from China, who no can come in a St. Vincent and the Grenadine and interfere in a them true and fair election, who no can interfere in a them democracy. Why our government can't tell them that too? Why our government allow people to come intervene in our election? Eh? Why our government at that now at the end of it, where he say that country did have a hand and then do that to the system. Yes, to the slow up the system at a country there, slow up the slow voting in the system that people couldn't vote at a country the responsible for it. And you hear say that country there, Ralph Gonzalez tell them straight up say, no country cannot come in a St. Vincent and and interfere in a them democracy. That our Ralph I tell the UN. I tell them straight up. Listen to Ralph. Listen to Ralph. This man you sound like him is a Michael Manley reincarnated too. Just like me and Matley.
Later this year. Their conduct is unacceptable and hugely injurious to our people. Your Excellencies, the raging genocide
Drag this back.
and neocolonial oppression being committed against the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank before our very eyes.
I must drag it back.
Path.
Make it a habit. 7 minutes of Tai Chi every morning, all the way for 1 month.
Terrible path of mature multilateralism, because our Herculean efforts seemingly deliver correspondingly negligible results. Nevertheless, we cannot give up. We cannot afford to get weary. We have no choice but to persist in this ever more urgent multilateral solidarity and cooperation as we pursue the political and economic spaces to make this world a better place for all humanity. Your Excellencies, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, like all countries globally, have been shaped by our history and geography, our nature and neighbors, our extant circumstances, and our dreams for a better future. For example, we carry the benefits and the burdens of our geographic location, near to the greatest economic, military, scientific, and culturally dominant power the world has ever seen. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is where it is.
That is the US him attack, you know. That is the US. Him attack about the United States of America. And yet still the US can't intervene in a FIDEM affairs.
Barbados. I request protocol to escort Her Excellency.
Yeah, man. So, una have to know, you know, So when it come on to Ralph don't take chat. Ralph no take chat.
the world has ever seen. St. Vincent and the Grenadines is where it is. It cannot be lifted up and taken to Vladivostok or the mouth of the Amur River. Yet, as a free and independent people, we have the right to pursue peacefully and securely our quest for shared prosperity without domination, interference, or intervention from any of our neighbors or from any power that comes from afar. Today, as I speak, my government and my people have another challenge from the nefarious activities of the agents of a rising or risen hegemon from another hemisphere, and from some greedy, unprincipled, non-state operators.
You hear Ralph describe them some unscrupulous hegemons. That is how Ralph
In
describes
Europe,
them.
acting in concert,
While our government hug them up. You hear Ralph's description for them. While our government hug them up and welcome them.
seeking to pollute and interfere in our democracy, our free and fair elections, which are scheduled to be held later this year. Their conduct is unacceptable and hugely injurious to our people. Your Excellencies, the raging genocide and neocolonial oppression being committed against the Palestinian people in Gaza and the West Bank before our very eyes on global television and are continuing affronts to the elemental rights of the Palestinians, to civilized conduct, and to international law. How can one state, a member of this august body, act with such impunity against defenseless men, women, and children? Surely, the hottest part of hell is reserved for those perpetrators of genocide and those who are complicit in it. Over 200 years ago, the British committed large-scale genocide against the indigenous people of my country. And we are still suffering, enduring the historical legacies of underdevelopment therefrom. Similarly, the genocidal enslavement of African bodies in our Caribbean, in our hemisphere. It will take centuries for the pain, suffering, and legacies of the current genocide of the Palestinians to be repaired. We in the Caribbean are today demanding justly reparations on native genocide and the enslavement of African bodies, which occurred centuries ago. This tragedy, this madness that has been unfolding unabated in Palestine must stop.
They're 19 and trading on their phones, while you're still chasing paychecks at 50. Disappear from social media and do.
Israel's recent expansion of this war against the Palestinian nation in the state of Qatar is unacceptable. We stand in solidarity with Qatar. Your Excellencies, St. Vincent and Grenadines calls urgently for a lasting peace across the Taiwan Straits. Participation of Taiwan in the specialized agencies of the United Nations. It is a continuing absurdity that this country of 23 million people,
But people, to be fair, I'm going to try to pull up the speech of our leader Anju U.N at the UN convention. Yeah, man. So So, people, so you have heard a part of the speech of Mia Matley and Ralph Gonsalves. Now listen to Prime Minister of Jamaica, Anju U.N's speech.
The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Andre Holness, Prime Minister, Minister for Defense, and Minister for Economic Growth and Job Creation of Jamaica. I request protocol to escort His Excellency and invite him to address the Assembly.
People, now listen, listen. Listen
Madam
to
President,
Anju U.N.
Excellencies,
Listen
on
to
behalf
this
of
creature.
Jamaica, I extend warm congratulations to you, Madam President, on your election to preside over this landmark 80th session of the General Assembly.
Listen to this creature.
Just last week, Jamaica marked 63 years as a proud member of the United Nations. As we celebrate the UN's 80th anniversary, we reaffirm our unwavering commitment to the principles of the UN Charter.
You see it?
From decolonization to peacekeeping.
You listening? Him start kiss ass already. That is what I'm doing now. Our Prime Minister, Anju U.N, start to kiss the UN ass. Him not ready for kick the UN in them face and tell them so them not do the right thing. Remember where me I say, you know, me I say the UN have to rethink and double on their effort of how they go about business. Because the smaller nation have been bullied by the bigger nations. And so said Ralph Gonsalves, but our Prime Minister Anju U.N, you hear what him say? Him say him ready to abide by the principle of the UN.
From eradicating diseases to promoting human rights, the UN has achieved remarkable success over.
The man write a speech for God that go praise the UN. That's how the man do. Write a fucking speech for God, for go to the UN General Assembly. That is not what the UN for Mr. Prime Minister. That is not what the UN Assembly is for. The UN Assembly is not for you to go there and praise them. It is not there for you to go there and worship the United Nations. It is, you remember when Haile Selassie, big up all the Rastaman them. Big up all of the Rastaman them. When Haile Selassie get up and chatter the UN, and everything when talk was against the UN towards smaller nations of the world, and especially in Africa, the whole congregation get up and couldn't believe what the short man Haile Selassie just said to the UN. The UN was stunned. No, our Prime Minister go at the UN and praise them. The UN don't want this. Oh, you forgot to the UN and praise them. Eh? Oh, you forgot to the UN and praise them. Listen, this man here creeping at the UN. The man dip on his knee. The man a slither like a snake at the UN. Listen him.
These past 8 decades. Yet, as we confront global challenges, including pandemics, climate change, armed conflict, and persistent poverty, we must acknowledge that our multilateral system requires urgent reform and revitalization to meet the needs of the 21st century. The UN-80 initiative is an opportunity to strengthen multilateralism with concrete action, institutional reform, and renewed political will. We must build a system that is more democratic, representative, and responsive to evolving challenges. Jamaica is honored that our permanent representative is co-chairing the working group on UN-80 mandate implementation review, along with the permanent representative of New Zealand, and we look forward to meaningful outcomes. Madam President, Jamaica believes in a future where multilateralism works for all, where no country is too small to be heard, where the concerns of small islands facing rising seas are addressed, where the benefits of globalization are equitably shared, and where international cooperation is based on respect for the sovereignty of each nation. Climate change, Madam President.
Virgin, me no see no manley is him in this man here. This man no look like him come from Jamaica. This man no sound like a Caribbean man. This man here, Anju U.N, is not sound like a Caribbean man. This man not ready for leadership yet. Him not ready. This man not ready. Him not ready for leadership. Bridging the man sick, my stomach, the man is a disgrace. Disgrace. People, me don't know about Tony, you know, but God help us. Only God can help us. Me not lie.
It's not a distant threat or an academic consideration. It is a daily reality for small island developing states like Jamaica. Frequent hurricanes, droughts, and erratic rainfall destroy infrastructure, displace communities.
Begging one, begging a beggings that, you know. That are beggings, you know. That are beggings when you tell people about hurricane and this and that and where. I beggings that. I beg him, I beg them now. Dep on him knee. Dep on him knee. Virgin, this man should have go to the UN and I tell people from the US, I say, yo, are we name Jamaica, you know? Are we just win the 100 meter, you know? Are we just do this in the Olympic, you know? A little that and we just gone there and gone with how much medal? 10 medal as a little that. We are great nation, we little in size, but we're great. We need for respect we more. That's where we want Donald Trump and the whole on in the G summit for G7 for do respect Jamaica more. Because when the thing say we're gone, we show we face up back on the global map. We just can't disappear off of the map. And we name Jamaica. That's how me expect the man to go to the UN and make them know say, you see when time we are doing our business, when we have people in our country, build up our country, if the US not like that, then for just lower we and make we deal with our thing. No dictation to we. No dictation. That's where we want. Allow we to deal with anybody we want deal with. We're not afraid of sanction. We're not afraid of sanction. And although you still go crawl on your knee, look there. Look there. Donald Trump lick on more upon the visa. So all the beg and a cry like puppy dog. Donald Trump now listen to you. Now listen to you now. Una beg too much. Beg too much. A time for Jamaica stand up like St. Vincent and Barbados. No, no, no. Stand up like man. Grow balls. Time for Jamaica, grow balls. Andrew, you need for
and
grow
set back
balls.
decades of hard-fought progress. Jamaica has demonstrated unwavering leadership in climate action, despite our limited resources.
In climate
We have
action,
committed to achieving net zero emissions by 2050.
we demonstrate in climate action. Tell the people them about Usain Bolt and all our great athlete them. Tell them about Bob Marley because at that me and Matley start out with a Bob Marley. Not even the culture your business with. Not even the culture this man you be believing in. Not even the culture. Not even the culture this man Anju U.N is believing. Them just believing in themselves alone. Just themselves alone. Yeah, talk about climate change. Where the fuck we have to do with climate change? Climate change is real. It is real. It is real, real, real. Stand up like a man in the UN, man. Stand up like you have 2 seed under you. Stand up like you have 2 seed. Your balls less. You's a seedless grape. Stand up. Look at me. Look at me, Matley. Standing like a Michael Manley. Look at Ralph Gonzalez. Standing like a giant, like a Fidel Castro. And you, standing like a big girl child at the UN. Listen to your speech. Listen to your speech. It is a laughing stock at the world. Your speech is a laughing stock.
And have implemented our national adaptation plan with specific measures to build resilience across key sectors. And we are on track to achieve our renewable energy target of 50% by 2030. However, our efforts and those of other SIDS are severely constrained by the lack of predictable access to financing.
See there.
The promise of $100 billion annually remains unfulfilled. The Loss and Damage Fund established at COP28 was...
You see it? And the same thing we just talk about. Why this man you go to the UN and beg money? You don't go to the UN with them thing there. You go to the UN like a big man and chat. Chat. Yo, it's a disgrace here, man. When you listen to this man, we don't see no hope in our country here. This man you just a go around, just a beg.
Yet, its initial capitalization of 800 million is grossly inadequate.
See.
Developed countries must honor their commitments and scale up climate finance, recognizing that adaptation is in...
Money them want for thief. Money them want for thief. Anyhow, no listening. Listen.
Necessity for the survival of small island developing states. The global financing system remains fundamentally flawed. It penalizes reforming economies like Jamaica with high borrowing costs while ignoring our vulnerabilities. Through sacrifice, discipline, and solid management, Jamaica has reduced its debt to GDP ratio from 144% to now 62%. Yet we remain locked out of concessional financing because of outdated metrics based solely on per capita.
This man is a disgrace to it. Disgrace to it. Look at the speech the man bring to the UN. Look at the speech the man go stand up at the UN. This man go at the UN with a speech like this. After having a man like Nigel Clark, who resigned from his party and gone to the IMF as a chief accountant at the IMF. How dare you, Anju U.N? How dare you let Jamaica be like a beggar, a begging nation? What about our country? What about the people them who are coming our country, are rich out our country? What about the Chinese them are coming here now and a turn billionaire? What about the Arabs them were slated to buy out Riverton City? Why them a come here? No much money them see. And money them see now. Money them see. That's why them are coming to Jamaica. But who is allowing them? Now you. And then you gone to the UN and beg like Papa. And you are turning a Papa, you know. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now listen to him. Listen to him.
Jamaica supports the application of the multi-dimensional vulnerability index that more accurately assesses countries' development needs and their eligibility for concessional financing. Jamaica also strongly supports innovative financing mechanisms, including debt for climate swaps, debt for nature swaps, and blended finance instruments that can unlock private sector investments in sustainable development projects while reducing debt burdens. We welcome initiatives such as the IMF's Resilience and Sustainability Trust and call for its expansion to support more countries in building climate resilience. Madam President, multilateralism must deliver fairness for all countries to believe that constructive dialogue and engagement offers the best path forward for all countries. That is the case, Madam President, for the people of Cuba, so that they may be able to fully participate in the global economy. We encourage continued domestic reform in Cuba and greater integration into international systems supported by policies that enable progress rather than isolation.
People, me not lie, me can't continue listen to this man here. I'm me about to end this, cause this man here look like him a gonna make me have some form of headache or something. So that's it. That's it. That's it.